It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our second speaker, Rajesh Dhuddu, the blockchain leader at Tech Mahindra. He is part of the Leadership Council and as a global practice leader responsible for bringing in required thought leadership, solutions and architecture to advocate blockchain-led business transformations to the client at TechM. With 21 of years experience in payments, fintech, telecommunication domains, he has a proven track record of creating high-performance cross-functional and cross-cultural teams across sales and marketing, product management, business planning, and mergers and acquisition. He is currently lead NASCOM Blockchain SAG as a chair. He is part of the Blockchain Steering Committee for IIBA and he is also a TEDx speaker. He is constantly guided by the motto, help ever, hurt never. Please get ready to hear Rajesh on the topic, blockchain in action.
You know, this morning when I was driving to the venue, I was wondering, it's a weekend, Saturday, how many people will be there? And I'm pleasantly surprised that the hall is full and some people are standing at the back. And I'm surprised, you know, I was wondering, either Hyderabad has nothing to do over the weekend, Hyderabad is a boring place, or you don't have anything important. Both are utter lies. Hats off to your commitment to take time out on Saturday and attend an event. So I'll try to do justice to share whatever little I know. Before I start, how many of you have heard about blockchain? Can I have a wow? So I can't say anything and get away with it, right? Because lots of people know about blockchain. And how many of you have heard about Bitcoin? Oh, even more. And how many of you invest in Bitcoin? Don't worry, I'll not tell income tax. Okay, about 3 or 4 hands that go up. I'm sure a lot more would have invested in Bitcoin, but they don't want to raise their hands. Nevertheless, can I have the presentation, please? Okay. Bitcoin is not the only blockchain. I mean, a lot of people say that Bitcoin is blockchain and blockchain is Bitcoin and vice versa. And, you know, the Xerox example, we understand it better than anybody else in the world. You go to the market and you say, Bhaiya, 2 copies Xerox de do. So you won't even say 2 photocopies. You will say, give me 2 copies of Xerox. And the guy will be running the photocopier business using a Canon machine, but he will put Xerox shop, right? So the question is, why has it become so synonymous with photocopy? It has become synonymous with photocopy because when it was invented, the reprographic, it was the iconic innovation of its time. And Xerox being the first mover in the industry kind of become a industry word. It's not a brand name or a product name. It has become an industry word. So is the case with Bitcoin. So let's understand what is so iconic about this particular Bitcoin. A lot of people will tell you saying that Bitcoin work began in the year 2008 when a person by name Satoshi Nakamoto came on the horizon and he wrote a paper called Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System, right? The answer is wrong. Actually, the journey for Bitcoin began in early 1980s. Early 1980s when computers made their appearance, and computers first made their appearance in university networks, not in government, not in defense, not in military, not in research. They first came in the university networks and they were communicating with each other from a peer-to-peer computing perspective. You know, we didn't have the concepts of grid computing and centralized computing and stuff like that. And when it came, you know, there were lots of computer scientists. These computer scientists saw a world 30, 40 years later saying that computers are going to become an integral part of their life. And they said that whatever communication that happens on these computers have to be made private, not secret. Secret as a connotation in military, but they wanted to make it private because they felt that over a period of time, government will meddle into Delhi's life and everyone's life, and they would like to know what's happening. Probably they saw Trump coming to power about 30-40 years ago. So they said, okay, let's make communication private. And they wanted to make the communication private because they wanted to reduce the role of government. And later, this entire concept is called as crypto anarchy. If you Google for the word crypto anarchy, a lot of ideologies are written wherein they say the government has to become redundant, and they want to run a world where nobody controls each other, and it's a self-regulated kind of a world, no intermediation at all. But they later realized that by making communications private, you're not going to reduce the role of government. We are still dependent on government for one major function, and that particular function is what? Any guesses? Any guesses? Pardon? Yeah, please be louder. Administration. It's a good answer, but not the right answer that I'm looking for. Defense is again a very good answer, but not the right answer I'm looking for. Currency. Somebody said currency, right? So we are dependent on government for currency until and unless you have given up everything and then you've taken, the sage life. You don't need money. But none of us are sages in our daily lives, right? We all want money, and money becomes a central part of our existence on this earth. You may like it or you may not like it, but that is the hard reality. So they said, okay, if we are dependent on government for money, let's make government redundant of this particular money. So basically they wanted to come up with a programming wherein they can create money, and that money can run on its own. A money run by a computer, money not run by governments, or money not run by, issued by the central banks, or money not minted by the mint of the government. So they said, let's work on this particular functionality. And the people who worked towards this, they got a title called crypto anarchists, and they also got a title called cypherpunks. Cypher and punk, not cyber hunks. I know these days a lot of people like cyber and the girls like hunks. So they are not cyber hunks, they are cypher punks. So the person who came and who programmed this particular money was a person called Vedai, and there was another person called David Shom, who is known as the father of digital money. But all these guys have programmed the money in such a way that they wanted somebody in between to administer that. I'll explain what it is. And by the way, Bitcoin is not the world's first cryptocurrency. It's wrong. Bitcoin is the world's first disintermediated cryptocurrency, a currency which is decentralized. So if somebody asks you what is the world's first decentralized cryptocurrency, the answer is Bitcoin. But what is world's first cryptocurrency? Answer is not Bitcoin. So these guys said, when they programmed, David Shom or Vedai programmed a kind of money called B-money, and this guy David Shom programmed money called DigiCash. They said, until and unless I keep somebody in between, I won't solve the problem of double spending. So what is double spending? I try to give everyone in this audience, for the sake of experiment, $1 each, only for the sake of experiment. Don't ask me that $1. And then I give you that particular dollar with the same serial number. What will you do? You immediately throw it back, because I'm trying to scam you. So the central governments and the central banks and the people who manage the money function prevent the problem of double spending by coming up with unique serial numbers, so that no two notes have the same serial number. And all of us have survived this demonetization in this country, right? So we know this better than anybody else in the world. And so these guys said, if we have to prevent the problem of double spending, then we need somebody in between, and that person who is in between is called as the mint. And that mint will ensure that there is no double spending, there is no duplicacy of the money. Then they realized if we come up with that mint, we are only transferring power from the government to that particular mint. We are not eliminating anybody in center. And they said this is not going to be a reality, so we are going to give up this particular initiative. And this initiative was given up in early 1990s. And 2008, this guy Satoshi Nakamoto came and he kind of solved this problem by Bitcoin. I'll explain how it works with the concept of Bitcoin. And for the first time in the world, there was money which is completely decentralized. There was money which is completely disintermediated. There's nobody in between to ensure that the money, the sanctity of money and the integrity of money, nobody was required to play that particular role. And in fact, a lot of people say that Satoshi Nakamoto was a time traveler who came in a time machine to Earth. He took pity on all these computer scientists because they've been struggling with this particular concept, and he came, solved the problem and vanished, because today nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, right? So I take the advantage and I call myself as Satoshi in a forum like this, right? Of course, I'm not Satoshi. So this guy solved the problem of disintermediation, and I mean the problem of double counting, and he ensured that the money is issued without anybody in between. When you disintermediate money, is there anything that cannot be disintermediated in the world? There's nothing which cannot be disintermediated in this world, right? Business can be disintermediated. Administrations can be disintermediated, because you have disintermediated the most important thing in the economic world on this planet Earth. So once you have disintermediated, you can disintermediate everything. So how has he disintermediated this? He disintermediated this by coming up with the concepts of immutability, in terms of, whatever you do, it cannot be changed by anyone without the knowledge of others. How did he do that? He kind of used one of the old existing algorithms called SHA-256. To give you an example of SHA-256, SHA-256 is a one-way function. Whatever you send into that algorithm, terabytes of data also, it will give you 64 bits of output. It's a fixed output. By looking at the output, you won't be able to find out what is the input. Now in the terabytes of data, if I change, let's say, one small full stop, which is kind of a bit in a computer language, the output will be completely different. So even if I change a small bit of data, in terabytes of data, the output is going to be completely different, and it will tell you that the information has been manipulated, number one. Number two, what he said is, whatever you do has to be recorded, whatever we do in the world, in the economic world, in the business world, it gets recorded in a ledger. And he said this ledger needs to be accessed by everyone, and everybody should give a consent to a transaction that happens on the ledger. So by using the concept of distributed ledger, which is called as the distributed ledger technology, and by using the algorithms like SHA-256, he kind of created immutability. And he kind of established the concept that decentralization can work, disintermediation can work. Eventually, what has he accomplished? He has accomplished what we call as digitization of trust. The trust has been digitized into the computer program or the computer code. And this is an important aspect, because in the world, we are living in a world where there is an increasing trust gap. Let me give you an example from my own personal example. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I took a train ride, or maybe 25 years ago, when I'm traveling, the first thing that happens when you travel, your co-passengers will talk to you. And then you are, having nice conversations. Sometimes the conversations go of changing the world, changing the government, everything, right? It goes all over the place. And then when the lunch time or the dinner time comes, everybody opens their boxes and gives you, and then you happily take whatever they have offered 15, 20 years ago. Today, when they offer, what do? First thing comes in the mind is, this guy is going to rob me. So he has put some drug particle or something in this particular food, and if I eat, I will fall asleep, and tomorrow morning when I wake up, my bag will be gone. That's the first thought that comes to mind. What has happened over the last 20, 25 years? Why is this happening? Because the trust gap. And this trust gap has not happened just because of that. Because, the erosion in human values, people have used those methods to rob, to cheat others. So you think that you are the next victim. And you don't want to trust that particular person. Everything is fine as far as conversations go, but when it comes to sharing of food, you don't want to do it. I just gave you a simple example, but I'll tell you how the trust gap is growing in the organizations. So this digitization of trust at one end, and there is trust gap at the other end. So as the trust gap is growing, the digitization of trust as a solution will help you to address the problem of the trust gap. So I'll come back and explain this. So where are we with regards to blockchain? We are actually in the third evolution of blockchain. A blockchain has already gone through 2 stages of evolution before. We are in Avatar 3 or version 3. So the Avatar 1 was Bitcoin, and Bitcoin today is worth over $100 billion. And when you look into the GDP of the countries, and if you find the top 25 country based on the GDP ranking, their GDP is much lower than $100 billion. It's a reality, you can go and check. So you can imagine how much of wealth that Bitcoin has created, and basis this, Bitcoin is not a figment of imagination. It's not some random activity which is happening in the remote corner of the world. It's actually growing seeds for the future of money. It's actually growing seeds for future of human existence, and that kind of money will come. 100 years ago, if I go back in time machine and tell people that all your cattle, livestock which is used as money, and then subsequently all your precious coins which are used as money will be replaced by a piece of paper, they would have laughed at me saying, this is not going to happen, this guy is crazy, this guy has gone mad, and he's saying that paper is going to replace all this. And we've been through that particular transformation. So this transformation will also come from a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency perspective. Then version 2 are the altcoins, which have about another $150 billion of valuation. They're basically copies of Bitcoin. One good example is a guy called Vitalik Buterin, who is about 21 years old, who went to a chat room when his teachers have told his father saying that we cannot teach him, he's gifted, he's super gifted in mathematics, please take him away from the school. His father was a computer engineer, gave him a computer when he was about 12 or 13 years, and he went to a chat room, and then somebody told about Bitcoin. He kind of started studying about Bitcoin, ran a magazine for Bitcoin, and then created the next cryptocurrency, decentralized cryptocurrency in the world called Ether, and that network is called Ethereum. That is today is about $40 billion, and out of which $20 billion is owned by this now 23, 24-year-old Vitalik Buterin. So people have kind of created such kind of altcoins, and they kind of became cryptocurrency billionaires. There are lots of them. That is the second version. But the third version, which is more relevant for us, is the enterprise blockchain, which is more relevant from today's session perspective, and why I had to give you prelude so that you understand the importance of blockchain and decentralization and disintermediation. So this enterprise blockchain is going to transform everything that we see in the world, both from our personal life and also from our corporate life. So this year, a lot of analysts call as the year of blockchain spring, where a lot of adoptions of enterprise blockchain are going to happen. So let's first see where, most of you are business analysts, so it's important for you to understand what are the areas in which blockchain is driving, what are the areas in which there is a massive adoption of blockchain. So so blockchain is going to be used. Before that, what you'll have to understand is whenever people talk about blockchain, there are going to be two versions. One is a public blockchain and another one is a private blockchain. So public is also called as permissionless. It is like, your public cloud. And the second one is a private blockchain, which is also called as a permission blockchain. It is like your private cloud. It's like, businesses want to use private cloud, but they don't want to use public cloud because of the info security concerns and stuff like that. Similarly, in the enterprise world, most of the people will use a private blockchain, or it is also called as a permission blockchain. So whatever from now onwards that I will talk to you is only about permission and private blockchain. So blockchain is being used to drive transformational activities, to drive collaborative activities, to drive business process re-engineering activities. I'll give you examples of how it is going to change. Let me take an example from our daily lives. All of you are victims of this particular activity, which we call as spam call and spam text, right? In terms of the funny thing about this is when you are in the most important meeting, the spam calls will go up. All the calls that you get when you are in a most important meeting are not the relevant calls, but they are the spam calls. So how is it? Let's understand how is it happening. So I'm a subscriber of Airtel. I told Airtel the government has provided this concept called DND, do not disturb, and they have also provided another tool called NCPR, National Consumer Preferences Register. I will go and update in DND, I don't receive calls. The moment I did, the next day I got twice the number of more calls. It's not, that means it's not going to work. So why is this problem happening? The problem is happening because I go and tell Airtel saying that I don't want any calls. Then, over a weekend, let's say I go to the latest hanging place in Hyderabad is the Sharad City Capital Mall. So I go to the Sharad City Mall and then I see a newer version of a car and those people say, sir, we have good promotions, give me your number and we will send you the promotions. So I give my number away. So I told Airtel no calls, but I told this guy, call me. So when these guys go and present to Airtel saying we want to reach this subscriber, Airtel says as per our records, you're not supposed to call him. So we don't allow him. So, we don't allow you to call. So the guy goes to Vodafone, the guy goes to Reliance Jio and sends the message or makes a call. Vodafone and Reliance Jio will not be able to block because I'm a customer of Airtel. They don't have my information. And, try doing this. Suppose if you're, let's say, a Reliance Jio customer and you want to call Airtel customer care, try doing it. Very difficult. It's easy to enter NASA, but it's very difficult to make a call to an alternate network. You will be put on a hold for 30-40 minutes and then you will get connected. So basically what is happening is people are not sharing information with each other, as a result of which the marketeers are finding a loophole and sending you the information. So what did the government say? The government said this menace has to stop. And they said, why can't we do it in a technology where everybody can share information, nobody can manipulate the information, and when the information gets manipulated, everybody will come to know of it. And they said, is there a technology? First of all, is there a technology of this nature? 18 months ago. And they said, they called all the service providers and they said, let's hear from the service providers. I'm not trying to build a case for Tech Mahindra. I'm only telling you the implementation. So if I take some references to Tech Mahindra, don't consider that I'm trying to do a marketing for Tech Mahindra out here, right? So we went along with Microsoft and we made this particular proof of concept to them, and they said, okay, this can work, and they passed a regulation. So how does it work now? The way it works is every telco, every telemarketer, every subscriber have to share their information. When they have to share their information, it should be shared in such a manner that everybody gets a visibility is what happening to their information. And if somebody is trying to misrepresent you, you will get that particular information. And believe me, today this is a very, very big challenge. I'll give you another example from our daily lives. You know, this has happened to a friend. He went to look after some family member in care hospital, and then somebody wanted to come to the hospital. He switched on the location service and said, sent a point on WhatsApp saying this is the exact location that you have to come. So he is put on a location services and he sent the message. So what happened? In another 30 minutes he got messages from an eatery next to the care, from a mall which is about 1 kilometer from care hospital. So the guy was flummoxed, completely flummoxed, saying, I'm in a medical emergency and I put on a location service to call my family members, and these idiotic marketeers are sending me messages about a new movie, about a new restaurant, about a new mall offer that is happening. That means whenever you have shared your information in today's world, you don't know how it is being utilized. You just don't have a visibility of how it is being utilized. You are the creator of that information, but you don't know how other people are using that information, and you will come to know when somebody has misutilized the information, as is the case with this person in the care hospital. So that has to be solved, and the same concept is applicable to the spam calls and the spam text kind of a use case in the telco scenario. So now the government said everybody has to come together, everybody has to share the information. So to share the information, they have used distributed ledger. They've used the concepts of SHA algorithms so that nobody can manipulate and misrepresent the information. And for the first time after this implementation, hopefully you will not receive spam calls. And it's a matter of great pride, because you know, whenever I go and speak in the forums around the world, people ask me, where have you seen the large scale implementation of blockchain? And then they expect me to say United States, United Kingdom, or some country in Europe. When I say India, they get startled. India? Yeah, yes, 1.2 billion subscribers are going to be secured on a blockchain network, and it's a matter of great pride that it has happened in India, and it's a reality. Using that, they're going to solve the problem. So now let me tell you what is relevant from a business analyst perspective. What are the things that you should look at when you're looking at implementing blockchain, or when you're looking at opportunities in blockchain? Before that, you know, you shouldn't do blockchain just for the sake of technology. I don't sell blockchain projects just for the technology sake to my clients. In fact, when my clients come and tell me saying I want to do blockchain, I say, what is the reason? They say, hey, it's a new tech, it's a fascinating tech, and we want to explore the tech. I say, sorry, I don't want to do that implementation, because it's going to result in a failure. Anything that you do with regards to the technology has to be linked to a business outcome. If there is no business outcome, and if you want to implement that tech, then you are only doing research in your organization, and you are not actually working on actual implementation and the potential use cases. So 4 things that I would encourage you to look when you look at any of the processes. Number 1, look at what is the trust gap in the organization. There is going to be a trust gap in the organization. I'll give you an example. Employees do not trust each other. Employer and employee do not trust each other. People of one department do not trust people of another department. And we know that whenever finance comes up with everything, we say, oh, these guys, you know, very difficult to work with. Whenever legal comes with anything, you say, oh, these guys are very difficult to work with, because they have to put the checks and balances, and there is no trust in the processes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that organizations are a bunch of untrusted people, But these are areas for improvement or opportunities for improvement in an organization. Take the example of suppliers and a customer. The customer and suppliers, they have a trust gap. The trust gap may be 10-20%. I'm not saying trust gap is 100%. So first look at trust gap and how can that trust gap can be addressed. The second one, look at how legacy systems and the future systems coexist with each other. That's a perfect area for you to explore implementation of blockchain. Why? Because when you have multiple legacy systems, the data is not harmonized. So the data in one system gives you one position, the data in another system gives you another position. And some of you would have gone through this when we implemented ERP. When I implemented ERP for Tata Cellular way back 15 years ago, my finance guys used to run 3 systems to manage data. One on the recently implemented ERP, the second one is a Tally, and third one is an Excel. Right? Because when Excel, they believe only what is there in Excel. The next level of belief is with Tally. The next level of belief is with SAP or Oracle or whichever is the ERP. And when you go and ask them something, the guy looks at Excel and says, no, this is correct. This is my data, it is correct. Then you say, no, my data says this. And as a result of which, there's a lot of reconciliation that happens. That's why today reconciliation is a several billion-dollar opportunity in the global marketplace. And all that is going to go away. If some of you are planning to build careers in the reconciliation world, please wake up and get out of that particular field as a career opportunity. Honestly, believe me, it is going to come to an end with the technologies like distributed ledger technology. So the second one is coexistence of legacy systems and non-legacy systems. The third one is force fitting of offline operations to online business. This is another problem that we face in the organizations. This problem is not faced by people who are born digital. For example, Amazon. Amazon can tell you expected time of arrival with lot more precision. In fact, sometimes I've seen in foreign countries, you can adjust your clock based by ETA, which is given by Amazon. Earlier, you had to adjust your clock based by, public transport, when is the bus coming or when is the train coming if you go to Japan. And nowadays, people are saying we will adjust our clocks based by the ETA, which is expected time of arrival that has been given by Amazon. Now let's look at, I won't name the customer. The customer is a telco organization. Yeah. The customer is a telco organization, and this particular customer had a problem with ETA, expected time of arrival. And this is a telco. So you know that this is not a company that is born digital. This is a company that has born physical, which is brick and mortar, and now want to get onto the digital world. Now let's understand what is the problem. The problem that this company faced, whenever as a customer raises a sales order, the customer is promised that the equipment, it can be a router, it can be a Wi-Fi, it can be a hotspot or whatever it is, will come to them in 3 days. So the third day comes and there is no update on the expected time of arrival of this particular equipment. And when the customer goes and asks the telco says our backend is looking into it, and you get irritated, right? These days it has become fashionable when the flight comes late. Our flight is late because the incoming flight has arrived late. Big deal. That flight also belongs to you. You're talking as though the incoming flight belongs to some other company. That flight belongs to you, and you should tell me what is the reason, exact reason for delay. So here, the same case, the people say the backend belongs to you. So if the backend belongs to you, why are you saying that the backend team is looking into? Now let's demystify this particular problem. So there is a sales team which logs in order in the sales CRM system. Then there is a backend team within the telco which does this applications on Oracle Enterprise Business Systems. Then there is a warehousing team which is outsourced to a third party that gets this information, prepares the package. Then there is an order fulfillment team which goes and picks up that particular package and delivers it to the customer. So the sales CRM and Oracle EBS is within the company, whereas warehousing and the order fulfillment is outside the company. These systems do not talk to those systems. And now the blame game starts. The blame game is when the customer becomes irate, the front end raises a trouble ticket, and the trouble ticket goes to the warehousing guy. The warehousing guy says, when you ask the order fulfillment guy, they say, I went to the warehouse twice and the packet was not ready. See the trust gap now? How the trust gap is playing, and everybody is misutilizing the situation because they don't have common access to the information. So now what has happened in this case, a blockchain implementation has been proposed, and the blockchain is going to play the role of a trusted middleware. So it is going to play the role of a trusted middleware, and it is extracting information from the CRM, it is extracting information from Oracle EBS, it is extracting information from the order fulfillment system and the warehousing system and put it as one common interface. So all the people can look at the information, can update the information. If somebody is trying to manipulate that, the other three people would come to know. In this case, I told there are 4 stakeholders at the minimum. In fact, there are a lot more stakeholders, but 4 stakeholders at the minimum. And even if one is going to manipulate, the other 3 stakeholders will come to know of the situation. After this implementation, these guys were able to solve the problem of expected time of arrival, right? The other thing that you need to look at, I spoke about this. Yeah, the other thing that you need to look at is, I told you about trust gap. I told you about coexistence of legacy systems and non-legacy systems. And the third one is what we spoke just now about expected time of arrival. It is a underfulfilled customer need. It's an underfulfilled customer need. And also the newer experience to the customers. Before I get into this example, let me take an example from the personal life. I think early February this year, I was in Seattle, and there was a snowstorm, and entire Seattle city came to an end. I was in Canada before that. It was -32. The meetings were done in -32. But in Seattle, it was not even -1. But the entire city was shut down because Canada is used to manage snow much better fashion than Seattle. So everybody advised me saying, Rajesh, we don't know how long it will take and you're stuck. So why don't you go and get groceries for yourself? So I said, okay, I'll go to a place called Selfridges. I go to a place called Selfridges, which is a departmental store like, Ratnadeep or Vijayta or whatever it is. And I go there, and then I go to the fruit section, and I notice that only organic fruits are left. All inorganic, the ones without organic category are all sold out. So I looked at the apples, and then I said, I'm spending in dollars, so the Indian mentality is to convert immediately to $70 and then make a decision, can I stay away from Apple to save that $70, right? That's the mentality. Nothing wrong with it. So I went there, and then I saw that these apples cost $2 more than the regular apples. So I said, my God, $2 more, and there is this wish to eat an apple, which is more important, save that $2 or eat an apple. Then I said, what am I doing? Am I a fool? Why am I buying this organic apples? Just because there's a sticker on the apple saying it's organic, that means I'm making my decision based on sentiments. The sticker is driving sentiments in me, but I don't have access to the information. Ideally, the guy who makes those apples, I wrote to the brand guy and then I tweeted about it, they acknowledged it as well. Ideally, that guy should give me a visibility of information from farm to the store. How were these apples grown? Are there any artificial chemicals added into the soil in which they were grown? How were they stored in a cold storage house? How were they treated from the warehouse to the store? And future generations are going to ask about it, right? We may not ask, and some of the future generations are in this room. I am not saying that. So the future generations are going to ask about it. Simple example. Propose to your niece or nephew saying that you want to go to a restaurant and you say a particular restaurant. I always lose to them because whatever restaurant you say, immediately they open Zomato and they see how many ratings, how many reviews, and then they'll say, uncle, this restaurant is not good, I'm not gonna come. I say, why? Because Zomato doesn't give them a good rating. And not only Zomato, immediately they have a school group, WhatsApp group, they'll put it on that WhatsApp group saying, uncle is taking me to this restaurant, comment. So somebody says, yuck, this restaurant do you want to go to? I don't want to. Somebody will say you're downgrading yourself by going to that particular restaurant, right? So this is the reality. This is the hard reality which is happening in our daily lives. At the end of the day, if you have to demystify, what are they looking for? They're looking for information, they're looking for data, and they're looking for a validation of that information. So this guy, Apple guy, will not survive in future by just putting a sticker saying that, I'm organic. Big deal. It takes 10 cents in US to print a sticker that it is organic and then get $2 more for that organic apple. It's a good business case, right? Print 10 cents worth of stickers, put it on the apples and get $2 more. Wow, what a business. But it's not going to exist in the long term. So what I'm trying to tell you is that is the customer experience. Are we able to give that particular customer experience to our customers? So that is the fourth component. Again, trust gap, legacy, non-legacy systems, underserviced business needs, unfulfilled needs, and a newer customer experience. If you use these four as the guiding factors, and when you do the role of business analyst, when you look at your businesses, when you look at your business processes, I'm sure you will get dime a dozen such opportunities where you can look at blockchain as a driver to bring in that particular change, right? And we've seen this with respect to a cross-border payment remittance. This is for one of the largest nationalized bank. And this particular nationalized bank was doing cross-border remittances from multiple countries. And they have one corridor, which is India-Nepal corridor. And a lot of money remittance happens between India and Nepal, and a lot of Hawala also happens between India and Nepal. So what these guys did, the bank in India was running on Finacle, which is an Infosys product. And the bank in Nepal was running on Banks 2000, which is a TCS product. And they don't talk to each other. And there has not been an integration between Finacle and Banks 2000. As a result of which, whatever money remittance that they do, it will trigger a money laundering alert. And the branch manager, the branch staff, knows that it is not money laundering, it's actually a genuine remittance. And what they do is, they have taken approvals from the corporate governance team, from the revenue assurance team, that they are allowed to overcome the money laundering alert and do this remittance. So they did that, and this was happening beautifully until a character called Shetty surfaced in PNB Bank, and he started sending Swift messages into air, and then cost multi-million dollar scam. So the bank got worried. So this is Shetty is our employee, is not somebody else's employee, and the guy is sending telex messages, Swift messages randomly without any business case, and he was scamming the bank gleefully. So the guys got worried, and then the government, the RBI asked them saying, how many such alerts have been triggered, how many of such alerts have been overcome, give me a report. Bank took 8 weeks to generate the report. The bank senior leadership got worried now, saying, what nonsense, this is such a simple activity. and then we have to give this report, and it takes 8 weeks to generate the report. So they said, stop this. So if you stop this, the customer need will be impacted, customer will have a bad experience. How can you stop this? You have to run the business. So then again, a blockchain based middleware, a trusted middleware was proposed, and what it did, it extracted through the ETL functionality all the information from Finacle core banking system on one end, ETL functionality and an API functionality, all the information from the banks 2000, and middleware, a trusted middleware was created. And what has been done, what we did, we also gave an access to RBI, saying, now you look, whenever you want to, you look, don't wait for 8 weeks to get a report. You have an access, because they cannot manipulate anything. If they try to make a change, everybody will come to know, so there is no issue. So we said, okay, get this access, and now this entire thing runs beautifully. So these are the cases that you should be looking in your respective organizations, and then put them up as a good implementation for blockchain. A lot of people ask me globally, saying, why can't the existing tech work? You know, a relational database management system, ERP, why can't they work? And why that only blockchain works? Few arguments or few strong points in favor of blockchain. ERPs are licensed in nature, whereas blockchain is open source technology. The DevOps on licensed technology is always expensive. The development and operations on an open source technology is cheaper. Then the number 3, whatever you do, the database administrator is going to manipulate the records, and if the database administrator manipulates the record, and if you don't get an audit trail, then it will be a problem. Whereas in blockchain, nobody can manipulate it. If they manipulate a system of record, everybody will be alerted. I'll give you an example again from my personal life. You know, when I was in school, I had a scooter. I was only 16 then. I was not allowed to drive a scooter, and the license was given for a motored vehicle, geared motored vehicle at 18 years. So what did I did? I went to a photocopy shop, not a Xerox shop. I went to a photocopy shop and then changed my year of birth and went to an agent who is sitting outside RTA, and then gave to him, and he said, "Beta, aapka kaam ho jayega." I know him from the neighborhood, you know, related to friend's uncle. So the work has been done. All of us would have done this, so I'm not ashamed to share this information. And then recently when I moved to Hyderabad after 14 years, I saw the person at RTA. So I asked him, "Chacha, how are things?" He said, "बहुत बड़ा चल रहा है, ऊपर वाले की मेहरबानी है, बहुत बड़ा चल रहा है." He said, "अब तो IT आ गया चाचा, अब आप कैसे ये सब कैसे कर सकते हो आप? How can you do all these things?" नहीं बेटा, बहुत बड़ा चल रहा है. So I asked him, "बता दो, what is your trade secret?" बोलता है, "मेरा बेटा डेटाबेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर बन गया अंदर." So you see, the guy was causing corruption outside the gate. Now his future generations are continuing the family business inside the gate. Right? So that is the reality of today's processes. What you have incepted, what you have implemented, what you have instituted is meant for processes of the past. And those, the human brain is so capable that they can manipulate those systems also and then implement. You know, another example, a company has implemented a face recognition, and then they found that some employees were scamming. What did they do? They took the photograph of their friend and showed it to the face recognition, and the face recognition said, "Okay, present." So what I'm trying to do is, these human values are going to erode over a period of time, and when these are going to erode, you need to have a good counterbalance, a good technology. Today, in absence of any other technology, it is blockchain. So at the end, what I'm trying to tell you is, a good blockchain implementation based on the 4 parameters, based on the 4 qualification criteria that I gave you is not going to hurt anyone. It's only will help you to re-engineer the business process, provide a newer customer experience, and in the end, improve the return on investment. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rajesh, for guiding us through evolution and facts about blockchain and helping us with live examples on how we can implement that. I would request Satya to hand over the speaker momentum to Rajesh.